Hey everyone, welcome to PunkCast. My name is William Maxwell. I'm a student of Web3 and the owner of Punk1806. CryptoPunks are 10,000 uniquely generated characters stored permanently on the Ethereum blockchain. No punk is the same. This is a show dedicated to celebrating the punks behind the punk. My hope for this podcast is that we capture the essence of the punk culture, elevate the brand and the individual behind the punk. One last thing. Projects discussed on the show is not financial advice. Crypto and NFTs are a volatile and risky asset class. Please always do your own research. Other than that, let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of PunkCast. Today we're back with Punk1806 with three Atties. She's got hot lipstick, dark hair, and the iconic pirate eye patch. In real life, she's a PhD candidate researching forests and human health at the University of British Columbia, and currently also serves as a health practitioner. Please welcome Tara Tiger Brown to the show. Tara, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Nice to finally meet. I think Sean's been trying to connect us for a while now. So, and I do apologize for rescheduling you as well, but nice to finally sort of meet.
I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And so Tara, you've got an interesting name, Tiger, isn't it? What's the story behind Tiger Tara Brown, or is that your sort of real name?
Yes, there's a story behind all parts of my name. So starting with Tara, my dad chose Tara after a character in the 60s British spy TV show, The Avengers. The Canadian actress Linda Thorson played Tara King. So that's Tara. Tiger is a nickname my dad gave me since I was born. It was always, he would call me Tiger, Tiger Brown. I'm not really sure why. Unfortunately, he died more than a decade ago. And after he died, then I adopted Tiger to remember him. Brown is really, my grandfather's from the UK. My whole family's from there. And I did a deep dive on my family tree and mapped out all the towns from Wales, Ireland to Germany. And so like very deeply embedded over in that part of the world. And so that is the story behind my name.
Fantastic. Thanks for the insight. And all of them have a special meaning, which is brilliant. But you said you've got a British sort of heritage, but you're based out of Canada, but you've got an American accent? Were you spending a bit of time in the US or?
Yes, I've lived so I'm originally from Vancouver. I'm like seventh generation Canadian, but after college, I moved to the Bay Area. So I was working for Microsoft in the Bay Area. So I lived in San Francisco, Sunnyvale, Seattle, and Los Angeles. So for 17 years, I was living in the US. And then I moved to Tokyo for a few years until we moved back to Vancouver so that I could go work on my PhD.
Amazing. Well, I think you sort of dabbled onto it a little bit, but might be good if you could just share a little bit about your sort of personal background. And I'd love to sort of hear how you met Sean Bonner, a fellow punk that I've had on PunkCast as well. I think you guys might be the first punk couple that I've actually interviewed. So be good to sort of hear your story.
Yeah, we're a pirate punk couple. Um, yeah, I possess an interdisciplinary background, so blending really technology and health and education. So I am pursuing my PhD in forestry at UBC, where I'm researching really health outcomes of touching grass, more specifically forest bathing. So for those of you that are not familiar with forest bathing, it's a practice called Shinrin-yoku in Japan. And it's a simple practice of immersing yourself in the forest, really opening up your senses to maybe promoting health or preventing like stress or reducing stress or even reducing blood pressure. There's tons and tons of benefits that are really we're learning about. And so when we're living in Japan, that is when I became acquainted with Shinrin-yoku because I was a stressed out tech startup founder living there. And it had such a positive impact on me that I ended up becoming certified in forest therapy. So I take people on forest bathing walks. And so my entrepreneurial journey really includes, I founded a tech startup called GitHub, which was to provide STEM kits, hands-on projects for kids in underserved communities in Title I schools across the US. So, there's schools across the US even today where they don't have access to learning how to code, or even some, science initiatives, et cetera, that you might get in more schools that have a lot more funding to them. I also founded Connected Camps with academics at UC Irvine in California to develop programs to utilize Minecraft to teach children how to code and other skills. And shout out to Velko, who plays with my kid, and my kid learned because, we started that tech startup, and now he's amazing, and I probably one of the best Minecraft builders I know. And I mentioned that I also worked at Microsoft for a long time. I worked at Shazam, for any of those that have used that app to figure out what a song is. And I also worked at Born This Way Foundation, which was founded by Lady Gaga and her mom, with a mission to support the wellness of youth, including dealing with bullies and bullying. And I'm almost done. Sorry, it feels long, but this is my life. I co-founded the nonprofit Los Angeles Makerspace, which we scaled by partnering with LA Public Libraries, which there's 156 of them, to reach underserved communities. So again, kids could have equitable opportunities to learn coding and STEM skills. And it was through that I was really fortunate to be interviewed and invited more than once to the White House with others that were working towards democratizing access to education. So, I think a combination of all that, including living and working in Seattle and San Francisco and LA and Tokyo and back to Vancouver, I think it's given me a real global mindset and a commitment to developing inclusive solutions. That's really important to my value system.
Wow, Tara, I don't know where to start. I think I could see why you found a partner in Sean. It feels like he's done a lot of different things in life as well. Maybe we can sort of start a little bit for the in terms of your studies. Like, what was your actual discipline? Like, were you more of a tech person or more of a business person? Like, what was you sort of studying earlier on?
Both. I mean, it was technology management. So the idea was to be a manager on working on tech projects. And I didn't want to do that. My dad, though, he was an entrepreneur. And I had some uncles and aunts that had gone to the school that I went to, which was British Columbia Institute of Technology, for my bachelor's. And I was more inclined, I think, to become an actress or work with animals or something like that. I wanted to take a gap year, go to Australia. No, if you do that, you'll never go back to school. So that's why I ended up there, going to BCIT. And I mean, it served me well, but, I think that I am more inclined to sort of creative projects. I love fiction writing. Like, I always participate in NaNoWriMo, which is happening right now. So that's the National Novel Writing Month. This happens every November. And, I've worked with my kid on 2 NFT projects now. I mean, he's the artist as well as, my partner, Sean. But, I really like participating in just those creative endeavors. So I think that's probably why I'm drawn to NFTs in general, because it just feels like there's opportunity for, everyone to sort of have input into the creative process.
Yeah, I minted a couple of those crows, by the way. It's a pretty cool project.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wow, and then so what was your transition? I mean, you went through Microsoft, and then you sort of ventured out on your own as an entrepreneur. How of all things have you ended up in sort of studying Forrest? Like, what was that sort of decision
Mhm.
process?
Well, yeah, so I was at Microsoft, and that's, then I went to South by Southwest. And when was this? 2007. I went to South by Southwest when it was still cool to go there. It was still fun and not too big, I guess. In that same year, I went to bar camps, and I ran a bar camp in Seattle and other unconferences. And it was just this experience, like, wow, like, just everything was a little bit more open and inclusive, and I didn't feel like you were so boxed into different ideas, or you're working in a big corporation, and tech startups were really, starting to take off. And so I wanted to try something new. And also, that's when I met Sean, actually. We met at a Last FM party at South by Southwest in 2007. And where was it? 2008. Uh-oh. I'm going to be in trouble. We just had our anniversary on Halloween. And so now I'm like, oh no, was it 2007 or 2008? Anyway. um, so I left to go kind of figure out this whole tech startup thing. And so my tech startup, GitHub, and LA Makerspace included looking at citizen science, community science, and environmental monitoring was part of that. And so that's when I really became interested in anything to do with pollution. So air quality, light pollution, noise pollution. That continued when I was in Japan. And, I looked for, where was the darkest spot in Tokyo? Like super fun thing to do, not easy to do. Where was the quietest spot in the busiest park, Yoyogi Park in Tokyo? And just love those kinds of projects. And so that combined with learning about forest bathing and just being curious, is this a practice that, could be something that people back home in BC, which I think of as a high octane, recreationally focused province, would do? Would they slow down and just hang out in the forest, or they always have to be mountain biking or hiking or doing something else? So I was just curious, and I wanted to do something different. I was really kind of tired of being in tech for so long at that point and being in front of screens. I wanted to be outside. I had trained with a mountain monk, right? Where I was like doing like these like crazy things, and I want to do something new. So that's really kind of the path that got me to deciding to go into research, and I had worked at UC Irvine for a while with academics, and with the LA Makerspace too, where just a lot of academics in my world, and most of them told me not to go get my PhD, like you're not going to want to do it. You're not going to like how sort of strict that experience is. And, you don't need to prove yourself that way. You can do this without going back to school. But because I was already doing so much research anyways, because I enjoyed it so much, I just want to be recognized for that, so, and I think it also gets, did a lot of doors to, by, through the affiliation with the institution you're in, and other sort of fellowships that I have now. So I think it's been really beneficial for me.
Amazing. How long were you in Japan for? I mean, I absolutely love Tokyo.
Yeah, we lived there for 3 years, but I started going to Japan in 2004 when I was with Microsoft. I was working on a partner project there. And then after the Fukushima disaster in 2011, Sean started going there for the SafeCast project that he's the global director for. And so, we started going he was going really frequently. And then as a family, we'd go at least every year. And actually, that's why we decided to move there was he was like essentially commuting from LA to Tokyo. And it was becoming really challenging for our family. Me and my kid we missed him. And so I thought, well, why don't we just move there, see what it's like. And then, after 3 years, the question was, we kept having to renew our visa every year, and it's hard to plan your life, right? When you're not sure if it's going to be renewed or not. And then I knew that I wanted to do my PhD, and it would be really much easier for us to do it if I was doing it back home in Vancouver.
Gotcha. Um, no, I absolutely love Tokyo. I just spent a bit of time there in October with my partner as well. And one of the things that I really appreciate about Japanese culture is they really do respect and appreciate nature. Went on some of the, I think they took us on some of the hikes out there, and it's absolutely beautiful out towards Mount Fuji way, but it's absolutely peaceful, serene, and so I can totally get the appeal of disconnecting from the world. and all the devices that we already have, and to maybe this is actually a great product that that the NFT degens might need at some stage when they need to essentially touch grass. Um, but it's super fascinating as well. So, like, could you walk us through at a high level, what forest bathing actually is, and what we could expect to get out of that?
Yeah, forest bathing, the idea really came from initially from the director of the forest agency in Japan in the early 80s. So he was facing this issue where the forests of Japan were just not being managed very well for a bunch of reasons. And also, this was a time when there was this shift to urbanization. So young people especially, were moving out from the countryside to the cities. And doctors were all of a sudden seeing a bunch of people showing up like really stressed out, especially the male office workers. And so there was this book that was written by a Soviet chemist, BP Token, and a Japanese professor that was sort of discussing this idea of these mysterious, chemicals coming out of trees, these phytoncides, which are essentially biogenic volatile organic compounds. So to say that 3 times fast. But really, they're these like the terpenes that are coming out of these trees. So the things that trees need to protect themselves from pests and pathogens, and they also use as sort of like a communication tool. And so this theory was that by breathing in these compounds that the trees are emitting, they can provide actually health benefits for humans. And if you really think back, humans, we've been evolving either if you think about Homo sapiens for a couple hundred thousands of years, but if you go all the way back for millions and millions of years to get to where we are today, right? So biologically, we are attuned to being in natural environments. We are not attuned to being in these built environments separated from the ground through cement and rubber shoes and all these kinds of things, or being in, these boxes that we're living in, right? We're attuned to being in natural environments with fractal patterns and changing in natural light patterns and et cetera, right? So, the idea with forest bathing really comes from that, where you're just immersing yourself in these natural environments as if you're living in them, which means that you're interacting with them using all of your senses that are available to you, right? You're breathing in the air, you're touching the plants, you're eating the plants, you're sort of smelling everything and viewing these patterns and listening to the natural soundscape. So, your 5 senses are, we have more senses than that, but, essentially that's the idea. And so example of how can be beneficial. So, we all face fatigue when we are sort of very focused, right? We're focused on reading things on our screen, doing work, etc. But we hit a wall because it is not possible for us humans to be able to focus for more than a certain period of time. And the theory is that if we were sort of out, in the natural environment that we're biologically attuned to, we need to be worried about things around us, dangers essentially, right? So if we are so focused all the time on something, we would not be aware of danger around us. And so that's for the theory why you can't focus for, really, it's, I guess, really 90 minutes is really, I think, the general idea of like where you need to take breaks, right? 45, 90 minutes blocks. And so the way that you can sort of reduce that mental fatigue that happens and increase your focus again is by viewing the natural environment. So things like what's called soft fascination. So Stephen and Rachel Kaplan are environmental psychologists in the 80s. Their theory is the attention restoration theory. And so by soft fascination, what that means is by looking at things like fractal patterns, like leaves, branches on trees, shells, or you can look at clouds floating by, waves kind of lapping, that sort of thing. And so that is easier for our brains to process than sort of these like hard lines, angular, just the way that everything is sort of boxy in built environments. It's just because we're attuned to it, it's easier for us. And so you're giving your brain a break when you're viewing these things, and that will reduce your fatigue. And also there's other theories that'll say it reduces your stress because essentially built environments, whether it's, loud noises or air pollution or light pollution, all these things can increase our cortisol levels. So, and that kind of, we have this sort of constant stress that's happening. And sure, we're adaptable and all of that, but there's only so much we can take, right? When we're just are not built for it. And so that can also reduce our stress and our cortisol levels, reduce our blood pressure, all those things. And all this is general. We're individuals and we have different responses depending on kind of what our health is, and where we're living, our geographic location, our culture, our spirituality, all those things can have an impact. But that's just generally how it works. So like if you can get outside and even if it's for 5-10 minutes, just like get away, look outside, look out even a window is great. But if you don't have access to that, even looking at a photo of, a nature scene, vegetation plus water in particular is a good combination. There's 360 videos or VR experiences that you can view, but essentially the real experience is best because you have that multi-sensory experience, and at some point, I'm sure we'll have an immersive VR experience where you're smelling and being able to touch things and all those things that can mimic, what happens outdoors, but we're not there yet.
That's super cool. So in terms of time frame, 5 to 10 minutes is okay. Are there any different types of forests or anything like that, or just being out in nature? Any form of nature is suitable as well.
Well, yeah, there's a long list of criteria, and that's something that I do my assessment on. But that said, really, the key things to consider are like, do you feel safe in that environment? Because if you don't feel safe, then that's not going to be a good place for you to be. Um, is it something that's, if it's something you want to do more regularly actually is better for you? So just, it's not meditation, but similar to meditation, there's evidence that says it's better for you to meditate, for short periods of time regularly than just one big dose of it every week, right? You'll that kind of accumulative benefits or adds up, right? So, a place that you can go to regularly and easily and don't have to think about it is best. So even if it's just, a sit spot where you can sit outside, maybe it's just a tree you have or your garden or something like that is good. The other recommendation though is to kind of mix it up a little bit because what can happen is if you say you're going to the same place all the time and sitting in the same place all the time, you stop kind of seeing the environment because you think, well, I already know what this looks like. I don't need to look at that anymore, right? So, even if you sort of go to a slightly different part of a park that you like to go to or sit differently on the ground one day, on a bench the other, just kind of mix it up a little bit so you're seeing different parts of the environment, then that really helps. Obviously, if you have allergies, that's not a good thing. So, I like to think of it and what I'm trying to work on with my research and, my application of it is this idea of like a dynamic park brochure where we can take into account different attributes of these green spaces in a dynamic way, meaning that we're taking into account seasonal variations, what the environment is like. So in BC, we've been really dealing with wildfire smoke, like on Australia, right? Lots of wildfires are happening. And obviously, you can be in a forest, but if there's a bunch of like smoke coming in, like that's also not good for your health. So we need to think about these things. And, in the advent of climate change, we're going to see more and more extreme weather events happen that are going to affect, or, our time outdoors. Um, Again, so that's why I think also thinking about, what our indoor strategies are, just as important. So, really the things to consider are, do you like that space? Because liking it is a good thing. If you can have vegetation plus water features, that's really nice too. Listening to water is nice. If it's got high biodiversity, it's good because there's more likelihood that you're going to be able to hear birds, other sort of like, insects and so forth that, are beneficial to listen to. Yeah, I think in a nice place to sit so you can just relax is also good.
So preferably a place without tigers and bears where you can actually just
Yeah,
stroll and relax a little bit. Um,
yeah.
aw- awesome. That's super fantastic to sort of hear, and I think many of us could sort of take a bit of a step back and go for a bit of a stroll and forest bathe as well, especially in this sort of NFT environment that we're in. But although having said that, I think we've come back a little bit overnight, which is a positive thing. But I'd be interested to sort of hear your crypto and NFT journey. How did you sort of start venturing into crypto and NFTs?
Oh, crypto. Wow. Well, we learned about Bitcoin pretty early. So early that I don't know if Sean told this story, but I remember in LA, we had like a garage sale and a friend of ours bought a kettle from us with Bitcoin. I don't even know.
No, I
It's
didn't.
like our pizza story. We always laugh about it. I think he chuckles, but not in the same way we do. Yeah, I know. I remember like we bought some Bitcoin, not like a lot, but we did this weird transaction where we had to send some cash to some guy who then like got it for us. And so, obviously that would never happen now, but that's how we got it. This was like we didn't know how to buy it, wait, I don't even know what year that was. But then I remember in 2017, I distinctly remember being in a coffee shop with Sean in LA, and he was telling me about CryptoPunks. He was like, "Yeah, like we heard it. I think he'd heard it from that same friend that bought our kettle from us from with Bitcoin, who's like telling us about CryptoPunks. He's like, yeah, I don't know how to buy it. It's like a thing I have to trade. And I was like, oh God, like we were about to move to Japan, right? And I had my tech startup and my nonprofit. I was like hella busy. And so like, I don't know, dude, like I don't have time. I don't have any brain power to even think about this. Sounds cool if you figure it out, right? So we think back at that, just like, oh, it's so hard I just cannot think about it because it makes me so mad. Um, but really that's kind of, our start in it. And then we ignored it, for most of the time we were in Japan, until we needed some money to move back to Vancouver. And so, we sold something and that was bad news. But we needed the money. Yeah. So that was there at the very beginning.
And what was your first NFT, Tara?
Yeah, the first one I think was a Super Yeti. I was looking back at my wallet. I know it's like funny, embarrassing, but also hilarious. So the June 2021, I minted Super Yeti number 257, and he's got like boxing gloves and um I think that we learned about it, I want to say in Clubhouse, probably, right? And I don't really remember why. I just remember the drama. I remember this is when people were really getting upset about roadmaps and promises being scrutinized. It was really toxic. And I just remember just being super annoyed. But also in the same month, thankfully, I got PunkCast number 260. And the founder is wonderful and really beautiful community. And she treated my kids so well. And he actually became the first Discord moderator. He's like, I don't know, how old is he then? Like, so much younger. That was, yeah. So I don't know. I guess, yeah, he was definitely not a teen yet then. But it was just like a really nice experience. So it gave me hope, for what was going on in that community.
Oh, amazing. I do remember Yetis. It became the joke of Twitter for a while. I think they did a bit of a rug pull back then.
Yes.
Um, and talk to me about your punk.
Yeah.
When did you get your punk? And I think how were you sort of looking through traits? Thinking about traits at the
Uh,
time.
so near Valentine's Day, February 17th of this year. Um, really like, so Sean wanted to get another one and I was interested. I just kind of was sort of playing along, with his experience in that community and her communities. Um, and we thought, oh, okay, is this something you want to participate in? You told me, doesn't seem like there's very many females in this space, and they seem pretty cool, the ones that are in there, and I, might have some shared interests with them. And so I said, okay, cool. And then we wanted to match. So, I wanted to get the eye patch. At first, actually, I was looking at there's like a I can't remember which number she was, but she looked more like a housewife from Japan, and I just thought that would be funny. But then that's when we thought, no, we need to match. So that's why we ended up with 1806.
Gotcha. No, she's cool. So it's for those that are listening, it's Punk1806 with the dark hair, sort of like the Bob 60s hair, eye patch and hot lipstick. And it's gotta say it's a fine looking couple because Sean's got the eye patch and the frown as well. So standing next to each other, you guys look like a beautiful couple. Um
We do
and
look
and
good.
And what was your sort of journey into the CryptoPunks community like? How did you find, I guess, the initiation and sort of getting a little bit more active in the community?
Um, well, I mean, Sean definitely invited me to all the things. So it was like a bit overwhelming at first. But then, he then introduced me to Julie, and I thought, well, I really actually felt a little overwhelmed by the Telegram groups and just,
I can
the
imagine.
Discord and
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm so busy working on my school that I couldn't handle it. I mean, and I had, I was part of a DAO for a while, and, was helping with the membership of that, et cetera, et cetera. And I kind of left it with a bad experience. And I just had left Discord for a bit, and I didn't really want to deal with that. So, then I thought, well, how do I meet the other female punks? And then so Julie and we started a Discord just for female punks. And we have a Twitter
Yeah, that's
list
nice.
too, for anybody that is interested. If you look at my Twitter, I guess it's X, at Terra, there's a list. It's called Fempunks, I want to say. Yeah, Fempunks, something like that. Anyway, there's uh how many of them are, I think there's 26 members in that list.
Oh, that's
So,
nice.
maybe there's more female punks. I'm not sure, but we also have a Discord. It's one of the only ones I really pay attention to. Um, but I would say, when I meet punks in person, that's nice for me. I struggle a little bit, I think, just keeping up with the personalities seem sometimes a little different in Telegram than when I meet them in person. So that's sort of always my hope.
Are they? Are
And we
they?
went to the Beeple event.
Uh,
Sorry, what?
mm. Are they nicer in person or more of an asshole in person?
No, definitely nicer. Well, like we had a nice group. Like we had a house. He rented a house that we stayed at for the Beeple event. And so I met some of
Nice.
them there, and everybody was lovely. It was really nice. Also just shout out to Natalie Stone, who is probably the nicest person I've ever met on the planet. Like Punk's community is so lucky to have her. Like I don't think that I don't know, just lovely. So
Yeah,
anyway, like I just
Natalie's a star. She
really
genuinely
just
cares about punks and
incredible.
she listens. Yeah.
So authentic, right? Like, and I think that's just the thing that I try to really look for is that authenticity, which can be so hard to find right now. I think in Web3 and NFTs and stuff. I think in the beginning I felt it was much easier, but now it's just too big and far gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's super challenging as well because to manage something like CryptoPunks, you can't just put anybody in there. Like I think if you were to put just a general manager that's just from a corporate sort of background, it's going to be really challenging. But I think she's really leaned into it and really tried to get to know everybody and taken the time with it too. So genuinely sort of cares about the space, and she's a female, right? So which is sort of great, which we need a bit more diversity in the community as well. But that's great that you've got a side sort of female sort of community going on. I might just grab the link off you later on, and I'll include it in the show notes. So if any female sort of listeners out there that are interested in joining, they should sort of definitely tack on. Cool. just going back to dream punks, I mean, if money wasn't an issue, would you have a dream punk in mind, or any traits or anything that you would prefer over your beautiful pirate punk?
I really do love that big crazy hair, that big black crazy hair. I forget what that trait's called. Um, is it wild hair? Oh, love that hair so much. Oh, and the glasses, the sort of shades, like with the brown tint on them.
Ah, okay, classic shades.
Yes, that that combo. I love that combo.
And if you had to look across, I guess, the punk community, do you have any punk personalities that come to mind? I know you sort of said that you found Telegram and the people in there not overwhelming, but just sort of a little bit hard to sort of get on top of. But are you familiar with any sort of punks that sort of come to mind that would be sort of your favorite?
I really appreciate, well, I mean, I think that there's definitely some female punks, like the artists that share a lot. Like there's Suzanne NFT, for example, just like really nice, like sharing and sort of uplifting the community. Or share like just the behind the scenes of their creative process. Um, and I just, so I wouldn't say that I have a favorite, but I think I have a favorite way of embracing and contributing to the community. And so, and I also want to say, which, I don't know if you were going to bring it up or not, but, like I genuinely equally like both the V1 and the V2 community. And I know this is like very controversial, but I'm not so into this space that I'm super concerned about saying that. But I also have met wonderful people, that are V1 holders. And I don't know, like I guess, and I've talked about my background, right? And just being inclusive and um that's really important to me. And more than, kind of worried about things that some other people are. And I understand the concerns, but they're not mine. And so I just want to give a shout out to that community that's been working so hard also to be inclusive and just generally fun to be around.
No, it's good that you sort of answered that. It was generally a question that I normally ask as well around V1 punk. So it's good to know that you're positive V1 punks, and I think Sean is clearly a V1 punk supporter as well. So all good on that front. And then, how would you describe punk culture for you, though?
Uh, well, I mean, there's like crypto punks and punk culture, right? And so, like for me, I early on in my life, like a huge Henry Rollins fan, like I listened to spoken word albums and performances and just in general, like sort of critiquing social, political issues and, sort of just general, like what it means to be a nonconformist. And that was always very influential for me in everything I've done in my life, to my detriment in some cases. And so, I see that reflected, in with some of the community in CryptoPunks, that it really resonates with me. Um, so, I would say that generally for it's the nonconformist, like, look, we're trying to be about change the world, those punks that are looking at environmental issues, education issues, that are trying to contribute to, make society better for everybody, leveraging, this immense, you know, uh, sort of valuable, uh, object that they have for positive means. I think that that's an important aspect of it.
Nice, nicely said. Um, and I guess if you could pass on a message to the next owner of your punk, 1806, Tara, what would you like to say to
Mhm.
them?
So, before I do, I'm just going to give a little background on this. So, early on when Sean and I were dating, we went on a road trip from Seattle, where I was living at the time, to Los Angeles, where he was living. And during that road trip, we stopped in Oregon at the Goonies house. And we we ended up buying, and we huge fan of Goonies movie and just kind of the ethos behind that message in that movie, and we bought skull rings, and I found a picture of myself actually we were there, and I had like a pirate patch on. And so, like that, you sort of that pirate culture, punk culture, there's like a lot of overlap there, right? Between that, sort of this anti-establishment sentiment and DIY ethos, and symbols of rebellion, and this sort of communal living. There's even, gender nonconformity, in both aspects. And the list goes on and on, alternative communities, so forth. And so that's, going back also, why do we have this like pirate patch couple? It's very meaningful to us. So that is the lead up to what I would like to say if anybody ever ends up with 1806. So you ready? Here it goes. Goonies never say die. Don't you realize? The next time you see Sky, it'll be over another town. The next time you take a test, it'll be in some other school. Our parents, they want the best of stuff for us. But right now, they got to do what's right for them because it's their time. Their time up there. Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here. That's all over the second we ride up Troy's bucket.
Beautiful. Well done. Thank you so much, Tara. I must admit, I didn't pry into how you guys actually met. You said that you met at was it South by Southwest? But
Yeah.
who pulled the first move? Like, let's get that story out. Like,
okay, well, the story. Okay, so we met that night. But he kind of freaked me out. Like, I don't know, he was on some mission with his friends, and like apparently, I had a few too many drinks, and I handed him like a few too many business cards. But actually, the next day, because we had a mutual friend, McMinn. The next day, we ended up meeting up at a coffee shop, and we hung out for a bit. And we found out that actually we were both going through divorces at the time. We had been married for exactly the same amount of time, and we were getting divorced at exactly the same time. And, so we bonded over that. But then also, really, the clincher was he showed me how to properly peel a banana. So it is not, you got to get the handle and peel the other way. So there's that. And then also, he showed me how to properly eat a cupcake, which is that you got to twist off that top, flip it over, and make a sandwich. So, those two things where I was like, okay, I'm learning new things from this guy. He makes me laugh. He's kind of interesting. So, we were friends after that. But then, after that road trip, our Goonies road trip, then, we started dating.
what a sweet, super love story.
And I should mention, actually, I want to mention one last thing, because this is really crazy. We got married 10 months after we met, even though we had just sort of got over our own divorces. So, yeah, we've been married 15 years as of Halloween. So
a punk match made in heaven. That's such a fantastic story. Tara, this is super fun. Thank you so much for your time and joining PunkCast. Any final closing comments? And what's the best way for people to find you?
Yeah, I just say that diversity makes the world a better place. Research substantiates that, and let's try to be as inclusive as we can in this community. And I just, I'm excited to meet more punks. Please reach out anytime if you want more information on forest speeding and how being around, in forests and nature can help your health. You can find me. I'm on X Twitter. I'm at Tara, Tara. My website is taratigerbrown.com. And yeah, I guess that's about it. So thanks so much for having me. I look forward to getting to know the punks community better. I am definitely new to it, only having joined this year. And hopefully I'll meet more people in person.
Absolutely. Tara, thank you so much. It was really nice meeting you, and I hope to catch you at one of these punk events as well. And really delighted to have you on board and diversify our mix from the male ratio to the female ratio just a little bit more. So thank you for that. Guys, that wraps up our episode of PunkCast for the week, and we'll be back next week with another awesome punk. Bye for now.